Hello and welcome to Janette's TV and Janette's TV podcast. I'm your host, Janette Burke, and today we're having a very serious subject about sextortion. Sextortion is when you are forced to share your private and sensitive information in exchange for sexual favors or money. And it's a big pandemic that's hitting our youth. And we're going to have a conversation with the two filmmakers of Sextortion, The Hidden Pandemic, right in 1 second. But before we get into that, I want to remind you that if you haven't already done so, please click the link below to subscribe to our YouTube channel and you'll never miss another episode. You can also support us in one of two ways as we continue to bring you the best lifestyle, women's, and business content on the internet. We have a Patreon account, so that link's below. No donation is too big or too small, and it also has special perks. Or you can get a Janette's TV and Janette's TV podcast t-shirt or sweatshirt like this. The order link will be below. You pick your size, your color. If you want this with the logo and the tagline, or an inspirational saying made by me and a previous guest in a previous episode. And you choose everything that you want, and then we will ship it to you. All orders include shipping and handling, conveniently sent right to your front door. You can learn more again by clicking the link below. Now, on with today's episode.
Are you constantly struggling? And are you fed up with being told to just relax, go with the flow, it'll all work out? Is that really true? What if you could be in control and chart this flow like a map using numerology and your calendar? Hi, I'm Donna Walser, intuitive numerology specialist. I'm taking the mystery out of numerology and teaching you practical tools that you can easily apply to get the results you want, including less stress, more financial abundance, more of the results you really want in your life and your business. So I invite you to go to donnawalser.com and download my free guidebook, The Story of Numbers. You can take the first step today to plotting your own chart, your own flow. I look forward to being a part of your journey.
And I'm sitting here with Stephen Peck and Maria Peck, who are the filmmakers behind the new movie documentary. Actually, it's a crime story called Sextortion, The Hidden Pandemic. Welcome to Janette's TV, Stephen and Maria. And let's start by you telling us, how did you get involved in this project? And why did you think this was such an important documentary and crime story to tell?
So Janette, when somebody pitched this documentary to us at the end of 2019, we didn't know what sextortion meant. We didn't understand the difference between sextortion and human trafficking. So we started our research and greenlit the film in March of 2020, and what can possibly go wrong, right? So what happened is COVID hit, but also what happened is a lot of children went online for studying, for school. And so the numbers started just growing exponentially. Right now, the difference between sextortion, the crime of sextortion, and human trafficking is 1,000% at any given day. Sextortion affects 1 in 4 children nationwide right now, from elementary school age to high school age. The numbers are pandemic. They have about 80,000 reports of sextortion and online enticement happening daily to National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. As parents to, at that time, 9 and 12-year-old girls, right now they're 11 and 14, we felt like that was a story we wanted to tell. We wanted to tell it in a compelling, true crime kind of way. We wanted to educate and entertain at the same time and spread the awareness to prevent this crime from happening.
Okay, so I understand the differences between sextortion and sex trafficking. I'm just going to reiterate it for my audience. So sextortion is exactly what I said in the intro. It's when there's stalking online, usually with youth, young women, and they are required to provide sexual favor or sexual pictures or money in exchange for protecting private and sensitive information. And this is really getting out of hand. So, Stephen, why is it that these, that these young women are prey on the internet? Like what we have the example of the top pilot that you use in the movie, and he was like not the epitome of somebody you would think that would be so involved in these type of horrific crimes, but yet had a slew of young people behind him that he actually did this to. What makes somebody like that just do these type of things? Like, why would somebody in that type of a position want to be involved in something like this? Why would they even need to be involved in something like this?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. Like Maria said, 2 years ago, we didn't even know that sextortion was a thing. And one of the things that documentary and film can do that we're really passionate about, they act like empathy machines, and they allow us to understand something in a way that even the stats and statistics don't do. We often thought, the perpetrator, there's always stereotypes, and we believed the same thing 2 years ago. We thought, well, first of all, the victims are going to be very much on the fringes of society, and the runaways and the foster kids, and we realized very quickly that it's any kid. And then on the flip side, we often think of the guy who still lives at home in his mom's basement, who's the one who's reaching out and victim, creating, going after these kids. In this story, Dan Harris was a Naval Academy graduate. He was one of the top air-to-air combat specialists in the U.S. Navy. He was a brilliant guy, and yet he had hundreds of victims. And so we realized that the power of this film is to break down some of those stereotypes, so that parents and teens can know what to look for.
And
sorry, go finish that. You say what you want to say, and then we'll move on to
well,
it.
I wanted to just make clear, it also happens to boys. So this crime happens to boys and girls, regardless of their, gender, age, socioeconomic status, or race, or where they live in the country. All they have to be is physically online, either playing video games or using social media apps. That's how the predators have access to them. We had cases with elementary school children come in. Also, recently, there are a lot of Nigerian and Ivory Coast sextortion rings that started extorting older teenage boys for money. They act like a young lady that they're meeting online. They get one image or one video from the boy, and then they turn against them and then demand money in return for deleting the images. And oftentimes when the boy doesn't know what to do, we unfortunately had several suicides just in the recent months of 17-year-old boys. Yeah, so it does happen to boys and girls. It's not just a crime against females.
Okay, so there's two things I want to touch upon here that you already alluded to. Number one, online, right? So technology is playing a huge part in attracting victims. To what extent is the technology developing to get these, young girls and boys in or falling prey to these scams?
So it's not illegal to be somebody else online. If you are 45 years old and you want to pretend to be a 13-year-old teen boy, use a picture that looks cute and meet girls online until you produce exploitive images or force somebody to do that. It's not a crime. So technology makes it very easy to meet these kids online. You could be playing video game and pretend to be a kid, and then you're not, and then you say, if you take a picture of yourself, I will buy this and this, things for you for the video game. And then the kid doesn't know any better, so they do that so they can get whatever the gadget they want inside the video game. So unfortunately, children are very trusting. According to recent data, 1 in 3 kids has a best friend who they never met in real life. They either met them through online platforms or video games. So they have a best friend relationship type with an online friend that they never physically met. So for them, it's very hard to tell who is, a friend or who's a predator until things turn dark. And when things turn dark, they feel ashamed. They feel like they don't have anywhere to turn, and oftentimes they don't tell. Why we highlighted this case is because only 1 victim out of 300 victims told. A lot of the victims weren't even identified because HM told law enforcement about her victimization, 300 other girls were saved. And this happens in every single case that Homeland Security investigates. There is one person that tells, and then they find hundreds of other victims.
Right. And so, as you said at the top of the interview, you're on a tour right now, city to city. After the film was released, and it was in the Santa Barbara Film Festival, and now you're on this tour educating parents. What are some of the telltale signs a parent could look for to know that their child or their teenager was going through this horrible experience? And what can they do to prevent it?
Yeah, thanks, Janette. So we are doing a 20-city tour. I just got back from San Francisco, and it's been unbelievable. There's been hundreds of people in the audience everywhere we go, and parents are asking this exact same question. One of the analogies that we use a lot is, my 14-year-old daughter is already asking when she gets to start driving. And I'm like, not so fast, young lady. But when it is time for our teens to get behind the wheel of a car, back to your idea of technology earlier, that, a car is not inherently good or bad, but they have to take a test and they have to learn the rules of the road so that they can be safe using this tool. And then we make them drive with an adult for an entire year so that they feel comfortable online and they understand, in the car before we give them the keys. But then what we're often doing as parents is we're handing our 10 or 12-year-old an iPhone or an iPad, and then we tell them nothing. And we're putting them on like an information superhighway, but we haven't taught them about how to be safe. And so the technology is not inherently good or bad, but if our kids, aren't aware of what to look out for, it's so easy for them to fall victim. And so
Right.
that's
So what
we're
should they
hoping.
be aware of? Like a certain messaging, like, oh, you're so pretty and things like that. What are some of the telltale signs that, these are red flags? Watch out.
Yeah, so before Maria, I'll just jump in quickly and then you tell more. But like in this film, this was a Facebook and a Skype case. Now it's often on Snapchat. And in 5 years, it's probably going to be something we've never even heard of before. But the MO is often exactly the same. And Maria, you can go into detail.
And they often become friends, like on Facebook or on Snapchat. They're friends with your friends. And so accepting a friend request just because they're friends with your friend does not mean anything, does not mean you can trust that person, because that's one of the tactics they use. They friend a few people from your social circle to target you. They could say, oh, I'm going to the same school. Oh, what school are you going? Oh, so they get information from you without giving information back to you. And then their camera is often broken. They can only provide a photo. They're never providing live feed. And basically, it's a person who pretends to be somebody else, and they're technically that person online, but in reality, they're somebody else. So if you haven't met a person in real life, I would never, ever, ever send an image to that person of any kind. A lot of
What
images.
about, is WhatsApp a big part of the problem too, as a technology and an app? Like WhatsApp's very easy to contact people on.
WhatsApp is encrypted, so the two people that are talking have the key to the conversation, but law enforcement does not. So it's much harder to track people on WhatsApp. Also, you have to be aware, if you're sending an image, you need to make sure that your iPhone is set on a setting that does not include a geolocator, because a lot of kids don't do that, and then they're horrified to know that the predator knows where they live, which they can easily tell where they live by the geolocator located in their photos. So they just have to be really, really careful and not really trust people, because people lie all the time online, and it's a hard concept for kids to understand, but unfortunately that is the truth. So if somebody's asking a lot of information from you, they never met you in real life, and all of a sudden they have the same interests as you do, they listen to the same music, they go supposedly to the same school. You need to be careful, and you need to be very careful. Never meet up with them without an adult, and never ever ever send them an image of any kind.
And also, I mean, it's very easy when we're in that stage of life, especially maybe young girls who lack self-esteem. It's very easy to fall prey and privy to somebody saying, "Oh, you're beautiful," and all that, because that's what we want to hear. But we have to be also a little prudent and cautious about that type of thing, right? Too, so that we don't fall into this trap. Now, the next thing I wanted to ask you, because I know we only have so much time today, You were working with the national security for the US and all these other different groups. How did you get involved with them, and how were they in facilitating information or helping you to get the case studies or whatever? What part did they play in making this film come to fruition?
Go ahead, Stephen.
Yeah, so when we first started looking at how we wanted to tell a story, we were going to do a lot of filming on the West Coast. But when COVID hit, shortly after we began, we realized we had to try to find something. We're on the East Coast that we could do. We reached out to some friends in the U.S. Attorney's Office, and they were the ones that told us about this case of the Dan Harris case. And they said, this case is so crazy, it reads like a thriller. And slowly over time, we were able to get introduced to each of the main law enforcement folks that were running this case and built up trust. They understood that, we're parents to preteen and teenage girls. There was a very personal reason why we wanted to make the film. And so there were several production companies that wanted to make this film, but they thought we were the right ones to make it. And so we realized that this case, at a very granular level, shows how this crime happens. So like I said earlier, this was Facebook. In 5 years, it'll be something we've never heard of before, but it's still the same MO. And so by, allowing you to see the actual photos that Harris was using on his profile picture, the actual chats, very cleaned up, of course, but the actual chats that he was using to trick the kids, then it helps our kids and parents to know what to look out for.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so a couple of things as we sort of round out here this interview. I know I was only given 20 minutes and I have about 6 minutes left and 100 questions I'd love to still ask. But one thing I want to make sure that it is well noted is that this documentary will be for release on digital coming October 4th. So can you please state the actual digital platform? I don't know if that's available globally or just in the US.
Yeah. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, so the film's releasing globally on 10/4. We didn't come up with that date, but it couldn't be more perfect for a law enforcement movie to get released on 10/4. And it's going to be on iTunes, Amazon, Hulu, Google Play, all of the digital platforms. You'll be able to do it. If you go to the website, sextortionfilm.com, you can pre-order the film. We made it as cheap as iTunes would let us, so it's only $10, and all the profits are actually going to nonprofits that are working to keep our kids safe online. So, Janette, for your audience, it could be a huge help for us if they pre-order the film, because that helps it to chart. And that brings a lot of awareness, and it also puts it on the radar of all the streamers. So again, we wanted to make it available for every parent, every kid. And we're now working with the National Center to create some 5-minute cut downs of the film that can be used in schools, churches, community organizations. All of those are also on the sextortionfilm.com website.
And since you brought the schools and the churches and the communities up, to what extent will they be getting involved in getting this message out and stopping this sextortion from continuing?
So right now we have so many requests from all over the country. Honestly, we are overwhelmed by requests for community screenings. We have about 120 pending so far. After this 20-city tour, we are screening the film for European Parliament, Dutch Parliament, Australian Parliament, and in January, we're also screening the film in Pentagon. So the role they will be playing is law enforcement will be enabled to use our video modules as part of their safe internet school presentations to take into schools and educate the kids. The kids really don't want to listen to a lecture, and they really don't want to listen to adults oftentimes, but these modules actually highlight stories from actual children that were victims of sextortion. They're very short, they're 5-minute long, and they're accompanied by Q&A guide, the questions you can ask children to discuss this crime in detail so they can understand, so they know what the red flags are. It kind of breaks it down and says, well, Harris did this. Do you think this was a red flag? How would you react in this situation? And it breaks down the crime step by step so children can understand how this can happen and avoid that from happening to them. And also wanted to mention, we're going to be releasing the film for limited theatrical release in Los Angeles in NoHo 7 Theater. starting on September 30th. It's going to run for a week, 4 times a day.
Okay. So two quickie questions because we're kind of running short on time here, but I wanted to sort of bring out two things. First of all, can you tell through a case study example, perhaps of one of the children who was victimized that you feature in the film, an exemplary story of, you know, how this happened and how it could have been stopped, or how the parents stopped, or anything like sort of like a case study type of example?
Yeah, so I think you got to watch the film to see the case studies, Janette. But I will tell you one of the big takeaways from the film that I hope all parents will come away with is that one of the Lindsay Olson from the National Center says one of the biggest things that we can do, and I've been hearing it in these screenings across the country, is that kids are worried to tell their parents for one main reason. They're worried that the parents are going to take away their phone. And so as parents, we should be talking to our kids using this film as a discussion guide and saying, if anything comes and happens to you, you're not going to be in trouble. I am not going to take away your phone. That's like so critical, because that's one of the main reasons why they try to deal with it on their own. They end up paying money to the people.
Well, where would they get the money though, if not from the parent?
I mean, we just heard a case, recently where, they're using Western Union, they're using gift cards, they're, getting their credit card out of their parents' purse. I mean, these guys, they are literally helping 10-year-olds know how to do a wire transfer step by step.
Oh,
So it's unbelievable. So so it's all about prevention and making sure that we can have those talks with our kids to say, we are a safe place, no judgment, no taking away your phone. And if we can start having that conversation, we can hopefully start seeing this number go down. Because right now it's 80,000 cases a day.
Wow.
Yeah.
And just say it again, the website that we can go to learn more about this, and also or pre-order the movie and see where all the screenings are and what have you.
So the website is sextortionfilm.com. It has the trailer, it has the pre-order link, also has the resources for parents and kids, how to report these cases, how to take down images, and also the video modules that you can use to discuss this with your kids.
Okay, that's really, really crucial information, that resource stuff for sure. And you mentioned taking down the images. Some people might think that once an image is put up somewhere online, it's never coming down. So you're saying there's hope that it can come down.
Yes, National Center for Missing and Exploited Children has a huge page dedicated to it, and you can actually request for your images to be taken down. It is hard, but it is doable.
Mm-hmm. But that's in the US. What about other countries? Is it going to be the same?
Yeah, right now the National Center is actually the clearinghouse worldwide. The European Union is going to be this fall working on creating a European version, the European Center. But for now, NCMEC for short, the National Center, is really the cybertipline.org. That's the tip of the spear. That's where you want to go make a report. And then they're able to route those reports to the proper law enforcement to help.
Okay. And one more time, the website, say it again one more time, because we're rounding out. I have to let you go, unfortunately.
Absolutely.
It was a riveting conversation, but we've run out of time.
Yeah, thank you, Janette. So it's sextortionfilm.com.
Okay. So I want to thank you both, Stephen and Maria Peck, for being with us today, for shedding light on this very disturbing topic. And hopefully in doing so, we're going to save some kids' lives and certainly prevent the suicide rate. That would be very important. And I'd like to see that happen as well. And I want to thank my audience for joining in as well today. And remember that you can share us with your family and friends. You can see us all over the internet. And we also have the podcast side. For a complete list of where to watch and listen to us, please check the link below in the show notes. And until next time, continue to be fabulous. This is Janette Burke, your host, signing off.